Hello, I'm Ross Twiddell from Cultaholic. You are a sexual wank pheasant, and these are all of the WTF moments from Monday Night Raw. And I know, in the face of AEW and NXT showing up the main roster in WWE and showing us how great professional wrestling can be, I've been very down on the main roster product for a long old while now. But I'll tell you something for free, because of course I normally charge you for stuff, don't I? I don't know what I meant there. I'll tell you, that was the most I've enjoyed an episode of Monday Night Raw for a very long time, and it was for one key reason, and that reason was wrestling. There was lots of great wrestling on this wrestling show. Who would have thought that wrestling fans would like to see a lot of great wrestling on their wrestling show? What a novel concept. Rollins Andrade, Buddy Bloody Murphy versus Tozawa, Kevin Owens versus Drew McIntyre, and that fantastic brawl at the end. There was a lot to like about last night's Raw, so let's get cracking with the moments.
WTF!
But we kick things off with one of my favourite moments in professional wrestling history ever, and that was Becky Lynch kicking off last night's Raw by simply saying, I don't give a bollocks about brand supremacy there. I don't give a bollocks. Kiss me arse, you fucking idiot. The Irish are great, aren't they? And I'm very sorry to them. But when all's said and done, though, she is absolutely spot on. Who does give a toss about the brands? Who just watches Raw and doesn't watch SmackDown because they like Monday Night Raw so much and vice versa? Nobody. Who cared about the USA Network versus Fox during that draft? Obviously, with NXT being added to the mix, I guess there is a portion of fans out there who just watch NXT and don't bother with Raw and SmackDown. What's that life like? It must be lovely. But WWE, by and large, have gone about things the complete wrong way, and it was lovely to hear Becky Lynch calling them out for it. Bollocks. But then Becky said, because after all right there, what better place for an Irish person to fight than right here in Boston? Ireland. Charlotte, what are you doing? Paige must have been saying if she was watching last night's Raw from the comfort of her own home, which of course she wasn't doing because she's got a very nice dog, and dogs are better than Raw, and humans. Anyway, Charlotte Flair claimed that Survivor Series will see the first ever women's triple threat elimination match, and I've got no idea why. I remember this match happening, but that match there happened at SummerSlam 2015. And this, of course, has opened the door to a WTF moment on a technicality, and those are the best because they're the most nitpicky. Yes, it's not 5 on 5 on 5. Yes, NXT is not involved. And yes, those women there are divas, which if you didn't know, according to the last 4 or 5 years of WWE history, is a weird subhuman brand of lady. But it's still a women's triple threat elimination match, so Charlotte's there. And then, just as we were about to get going with that tag team match involving Team CB minus the P, think about it, and the bloody Iconics, Samoa Joe's music hits, and out he comes. And as Joe was stood there looking very proud and pompous in his lovely grey suit, something flashed across my mind, which doesn't happen all too often, so I was very worried. This is what it was, though. Yes, I was thinking, I have seen this before. I have seen a bruising professional wrestler who wasn't given the chance to hit the heights he has in other companies, shafted onto commentary. But of course, Samoa Joe is arguably the best talker in WWE today. He is certainly a better talker than Taz was way back in the day, they say in Yorkshire. So I'm intrigued to see where this goes. He had a good night, did Joe, I thought. But then Joe kicked off his stint on commentary in a really weird way when he said he would catch all of the bullets aimed at Jerry Lawler, just like Dio Madden did when Dio Madden was quite literally killed, it turns out, by Brock Lesnar a couple of weeks ago. Rest in peace, Dio. And I was just sat there thinking, Joe, is that worth the hassle? Each to their own, I guess. And then we had the really weird sight of Jessamyn Duke and Maria Shafir laying the smacketh down on Charlotte Flair of all people. And I know that Charlotte Flair had just been in a match, and I know it was 2-on-1 in the NXT ladies' favour, but it's Maria Shafir and Jessamyn Duke. They're rubbish. And of course it's Charlotte Flair, and we know how good Charlotte Flair is. I'm sure if myself and Adam Pacitti tried to take on LeBron James at the basketball, LeBron James would still beat us. That's a similar comparison. And then I thought somebody in this lovely office must have slipped a tab of LSD into my morning coffee because I saw what I thought at the time was a sign in support of the Lucha House Party. But then I realised that somebody actually did put 2 or maybe even 3 or had to push 4. It's a wonder I'm still alive. 4 tabs of LSD in my morning coffee because it would appear that sign there is in support of Lars Sullivan. Remember him? Apparently Lucha House Party are scared of him, and we all know the reasons why, don't we? Oh. So next up we have the weird moment where the security guards are ushering Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch away from the NXT ladies. Becky Lynch drops one of the security guards, and the other security guards just stand back going like, whoa, we want no trouble, ma'am. That's not how that works at all. You look at one of those bellends in the face wrong, and they'll drop you, they'll whap a taser out, shove it up your arsehole, and not apologise for it. That's how it works in Newcastle anyway. Yes, this made Becky look like an uber bad ass, but WWE, what story are we telling the youth of today? I'm here to tell you because Uncle Ross cares. Don't look at security guards in the wrong way, and especially don't punch them, or your night out will be ruined. And now it's time for this.
Wankety wank, wankety wank, wankety wank, wankety wank, wankety wank, wankety wank, wankety wank.
Hello and welcome back to Wankety Wank, the section of WTF moments where you, a sexual wank fezon, tweet me with a WTF moment I have missed, and I give you the credit, because quite frankly that's the right thing to do. Thank you goes out to Big Kayla, who must have twacked this from the Urban Dictionary, because where else would words like that, in that order, be written? And one thing here is just left to be said, and that is AJ Styles, you dirty bastard. And then we have Samoa Joe claiming that Humberto has been on Raw for a cup of coffee, a lukewarm cup of coffee at that. Joe then says that Humberto has had big victories on Raw. That's not right. When Samoa Joe said that line, Humberto had only had 1 victory on Monday Night Raw, and that happened in the one in England when he pinned AJ Styles after that moonsault victory. And then we have Seth Rollins, who said that Boston, that's where Raw last night, have had a quarterback who has been so good for so long that half the world wants to see him fail. Then he paused for a bit, then he looked at Charlie Caruso right in the eye and said, "Sound familiar?" That's not why some people have turned on you, Seth, you massive dick. They turned on you because of the things you do and say in your own time when those wonderful scriptwriters who work for WWE aren't telling you to do the things to do. And the fact that you are so oblivious to this, quite clearly judging by this promo, makes it all the more worse. And I'm bored about moaning about Seth Rollins now. As long as he wrestles great and keeps his trap shut, I'm tickety-boo with all that because he's a fantastic wrestler. But that comment really boiled my piss, it did. Catherine Joy Perry, professionally known as Lana, Miroslav Banyashev, professionally known as Rusev. What the hell is this? Unprecedented levels of realism from WWE. I cannot believe it. In years gone by, that contract would have just said Lana and Rusev, and I would have been stood here acting all clever, even though I'm a sad prick with no life saying, well, that's not the real names, but they've changed it. But now it's time for this.
Wankety wank, wankety wank, wankety wank, wankety wank, wankety wank, wankety wank, wankety wank.
Welcome back to Wankety Wank. You know how it works by now, and there goes the realism thanks to one man who might or might not be correct. I didn't check it because I was short of time today, but Ryan, you bastard. So next up we have the moment where Lana revealed that she has filed for a restraining order against my bae and spirit animal Miroslav, otherwise known as Rusev, and that restraining order meant a whole catalogue of things. First of all, Lana claimed that this restraining order meant that Rusev could not come within 90 miles of her. Bobby Lashley then whispered something in her ear, and judging by the way this feud has gone thus far, I reckon Bobby said something along the lines of, hey, CJ, I could come in you from a distance of 90 miles because I'm Bobby Lashley and you're sexy. But then Lana turned into a horse. She went, and then said, oh, I meant 90 days. No, I meant 90 feet. But all the credit in the world to Lana because she tried to pull off a save that was similar in difficulty to David Seaman against Sheffield United at Old Trafford in the FA Cup when she said, oh, I just get so flustered when I'm stood next to Bobby. It was Now, during the WTF moments for last week's Friday Night SmackDown, I quite literally blotted everywhere at the sight of WWE using long-term storytelling for Bray Wyatt versus Daniel Bryan. And you know the old saying, you wait for a London bus, one doesn't turn up for a while and then two come along at once? Well, it happened again on Raw this week because Bobby Lashley, of all people, won a match with a master lock. That's the move that Bobby became the first man in WWE to break. You know, when Chris used to lock it on and people couldn't get out, Bobby was the first man to get out of it all the way back in 1912. And quite frankly, that there is the best and most captivating long-term story WWE have told this century. But then the weirdness came back because they ended up in that position there. And I was asking, what the hell are they doing? Why did Bobby lower her all the way down to the floor and then not follow her? I feel like I'm directing a porn. Why did Lana do what she did? I thought that was going in a direction that mirrored Edge and Lita, but without the bed and the cover. One cultaholic sign was seen at last night's Raw, and thank you goes to that rogue cultaholic man in the crowd. Next time you go to a show, do what he did. Or better still, tweet me your name and your sign, and I'll say your name on the camera because I'm a performing monkey. Back to Samoa Joe we go, and this time he claimed that his last foray, he turned into a Frenchman at Survivor Series last year. Didn't last too long because he doesn't play well with others. Well, judging by last year's match, Joe, you don't fight well with others either. As most of you will remember, in the elimination tag match last year, Samoa Joe was the first man out after he had his face kicked off by Drew McIntyre about 35 seconds into the match. Never forget. And next up we have Jerry Lawler saying NXT have the advantage of Survivor Series because they haven't named their team and therefore Raw and SmackDown do not know what they're coming up against. And that's even though at least a couple of that men's elimination tag team will have been to War Games! War Games! War Games! They will have been inside War Games the night before. That's War Games, Jerry! War Games, not board games! We're gonna have some board games or fun games! It's War Games, it's got war in the title, devastation and things like that. They're going to be absolutely cream crackered while the superstars of Raw and SmackDown Live kick back with a beer, watching the WWE Network live from their hotel rooms. No doubt they'll all do that. They should do that. The takeovers are good, aren't they? And then we had a matchup that meant absolutely nothing as Seth Rollins and Andrade battled for the team captaincy of Monday Night Raw at Survivor Series on Sunday, where the winner, of course, would have got to say, "Oh, I'm the captain and you're not." Grow up, man. And after a match that was fantastic because obviously it's Seth Rollins and it's Andrade, two bloody good wrestlers, we had an interference from the Lucha House Party because of reasons. And those reasons are because Lucha House Party are SmackDown through and through. They cannot be more blue than they are. Flat. They attack Seth Rollins, Andrade loses the match by disqualification, then the Lucha House Party run away, and still nobody cares about the Lucha House Party. But of course, this was just another example. Like last week, we had Seth Rollins versus Walter, ended in a Balak's way, as Becky Lynch would say. Seth Rollins versus Andrade ends in a Balak's way. They give us something lovely we want to see, and just take it away in the most infuriating way possible. And I guess I should also mention that the Luchas are baby faces, aren't they? Are they? I don't. What? So next up we have Buddy Bloody Murphy, who knocked on Aleister Black's door and said that he was here to pick a fight with him. There was no answer though. Buddy walked away, and by the time Buddy went round the corner, then Aleister Black opened the door, and he was like, what? Who the hell was that? But of course that leads us to one question and one question only. What was Aleister Black doing inside that room, which meant he couldn't get to the door in time? And of course my mind immediately went to the first thing you would think that men, moody men, who are rejected by society would do when they're locked inside of a dark room alone. They would develop photographs. It's obvious, isn't it? So then whatever the piss he is talking to inside of that box has got a lot bigger over the last 7 days, which leads me to believe that since Braun Strowman somehow lost 100 pounds from his big monstrous body over the last 10 days or so, Eric Rowan is carrying around a box of Braun Strowman's fat. Nailed on, you watch. It's basically just the Spider-Man looking at each other meme, isn't it? For 18 years it has been proven that I do not play well with others. said Randy Orton in a really enthusiastic manner. And I was thinking, aye Randy, that might be true, but you've certainly proved you play well with yourself, don't you? And make harmless bastards shake your hand while doing so. Anyway, the real point to this WTF moment is the fact that Randy Orton has been in many, many factions over the past 18 years. All of them haven't ended very well. I think there's just one, with the Revival, that didn't end with a massive brawl between all the members and whatnot, and a big falling out and a big taboo. But you know what I'm saying, don't you? So just 6 nights before the battle for brand supremacy takes place, we have a big match between 2 members of the same team. And because 2 members of the same team were put in a match against each other, and because one of those men is the Scottish psychopath Drew McIntyre tried to kill Kevin Owens on more than one occasion. He threw him into the barricade from the ring to the floor. He did an an attitude adjustment on the apron, which is the hardest part of the ring, didn't you know? And I was just left thinking, that's a bit stupid, isn't it? Raw deserve to lose for tactics like that. Unless, of course, SmackDown do the same on Friday, which they probably will. Which means they should lose for being even more stupider. So in the midst of this great match between Drew McIntyre and Kevin Owens, Triple H's music hits and out waltzes the Princess Diana of professional wrestling. He can do no wrong, can he? We then go to commercial break. We come back from that same commercial break. We're in the ring. Drew McIntyre has vanished into thin air. Piff! He probably went. Triple H is asking for a bottle of water to give to Kevin Owens because he wants to butter Kevin Owens' arsehole so he can get him onto Team NXT. That's what he wanted to do. And I was left thinking, what the hell have I missed? We were having a great match. Yes, Triple H came out. Yes, we went to commercial break. But what happened to Drew? Drew, if you're alive, give us a text. Let us know you're safe. He hasn't got my number. I haven't got his. And then Triple H even had the bollocks to say, wow, what a great match that was. It would have been even better, Paul, if we got to see the end of the bloody thing. Triple H then said that Kevin Owens had been fired by Kurt Angle from Raw in the past, and because of that, he didn't fit the mold and he should come back to NXT because that's where no molds live. But didn't the old story go that Kevin Owens and his guardian angel Sami Zayn were fired from SmackDown Live by Shane McMahon? Still haven't gotten over it. And then they went to Raw looking for a job. They said, hello Kurt, can we have a job? And Kurt said, boys, no you can't, but TNA, they're hiring. And again, I'm sorry if I've got that wrong, but I think that's how it went. And no wonder Triple H's nose is big because he lies so much, obviously. So earlier in the night, we heard Charlie Caruso saying to us fans at home, fans, I've got some big breaking news. I've got a huge scoop. But by the time she actually came to tell us this breaking news, at least an hour, if not more, must have passed, which meant this breaking news an hour ago, or maybe more, could not have been breaking news by the time Charlie Caruso said it. It must have been on the sky yellow ticker ting down the bottom of the page and everything, unless of course Charlie Caruso is the best secret keeper of all time. In which case I'm saying, you're a selfish woman, Charlie, share more. So we all know how WWE Champion Brock Lesnar moved to Monday Night Raw because he wanted to lay the smackers down on Ronald Mysterious, but Ronald Mysterious is the property of Raw and exclusive to the USA Network. Of course, we all knew that was bollocks because Rey Mysterio must have appeared on the first 4 or 5 or 6 SmackDowns that happened on Fox. So you would have then thought that WWE, after creating this big old lie, would have done their best to cover up this lie, but no, they just flaunt it right in our faces. No holds barred, no disqualification, anything goes. Paul Heyman let us know that's the crack with Brock Lesnar versus Ronald Mysterious for the title on Sunday. Paul Heyman then told us that WWE will be forced to pull that match from history because it will be that graphic in nature. Well, Kenny and John, they set the bar there. So this match is at least going to be there, if not there. And all I've got to say is good luck to Ronald and Brock after the big old G up there from Paul Heyman. Of course that's not going to happen. You at home might think, good, there's no place for that in my professional wrestling. If you do think that, good on you for having an opinion. But I don't know why Paul would say that after the wrestling world and WWE, they do now acknowledge the rest of the wrestling world, not AEW, but that match wasn't sanctioned by AEW. So do they refer to it? I'm just talking myself into a deep hole here now. But it was still weird with the precedent set for Paul to say a thing like that. But we all know that Cain Velasquez re-added to that Mexico City house show after being ruled out through injury. He's going to come back, going to cost Brock, raise the champion, Kane Brock too. Back to Jerry Lawler we go, and this time he claims that last night's match was the first time that Asuka and Natalya had faced off one-on-one. And even though Lawler is technically correct, he wasn't as correct as Big Vic Joseph, who didn't say BAM once last night, I don't think. I wasn't really paying attention. He probably said it a million times, just like he did last week. Anyway, Vic said this was the first time Asuka and Natalya had gone one-on-one on Raw, which opened the door for me to say that, Jerry, they have gone on one-on-one before. 2016, there was 2 house show matches for the NXT Women's Championship, Asuka's title. At the time, of course, one took place in Honolulu, the other took place in Japan. So that means nothing. And then we closed the show with Triple H looking down the camera to tell the superstars of Raw and SmackDown that the door is open at NXT on Wednesday and he's going to let them in. Alright, Bray. He teased everything in the world there to the fans who were watching Monday Night Raw. So quite frankly, if NXT does not beat AEW in the ratings on Wednesday, they might as well pack up and go home. Because who knows what could beat the ratings after a big old teaser like that. But then again, they shouldn't go home. Who cares about the ratings? I don't care about the ratings. I don't know why I said that. I'm not a man in a suit. Why did I mention that? The more good wrestling we have, good wrestling. It's a good thing. I don't know what that last point was about, but you know what I mean. Triple H set the table there for a nice big roast. If it turns out to be a Dixie chicken, then we're struggling. So that's it for the WTF moments from the best Raw for a long time. Raw, WWE in general, more wrestling equals better shows. Less crap equals better shows. That was the message I took away from last night's Raw. Thanks for watching. Let us know what you think in the comments below. You can follow us on Twitter at Cultaholic. You can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/Cultaholic. And if you enjoy what we do here at Cultaholic, you can pledge to our Patreon page, patreon.com/Cultaholic. Hit subscribe and join us.